So, after 8 faithful years of service with my Leight Impact Sports, I decided to get a new pair of shooting headphones after mine finally died. 8 years ago, there weren't this many options. There really weren't any options at all. You basically went on Amazon and bought one pair. Everybody got them in green like this because all the other colors were more expensive. Now, 8 years later, lots of options exist with many features, with prices ranging from $25 up to over $125. You can get them in pretty much every color. After asking opinions online and offline, the overall majority basically chose one or the other, usually based on price, and most people never really had exposure to another brand to even know something better exists. This is important because some of us shoot majority indoors while others shoot majority outdoors, which means that certain features like protective noise clipping or a weatherproof build will be more important depending on your individual use. I'm going to try to cover each of these options in order of lowest price to highest price and any unique options available, plus rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 in comfort. Obviously, comfort's subjective, but you're gonna have to just trust me on that one and hope that your head is the same size as mine and your ears are the same size as mine. Additionally, if there's any specific negatives or other things that stand out, I'll make sure to try to highlight them so that you can make a better decision when you go to buy. I'll also try to cover noise level, which is really important when you buy electronic headphones because the last thing you want is noise in the background while you're shooting, breaking your concentration. I'll call it noise level or static interference, whatever works for you. And then if there's any type of upgrades available for them, whether they're aftermarket or made by the company that produces the headphones, do they get in the way of cheek welds? And finally, are they compatible with some type of helmet adapter as well? If you want to fast forward and don't care about the technical details, after reviewing all the above, I'll get into what I personally consider to be the best bang for your buck, straight out of the box, and any final thoughts on other options. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump right in. Number one right here is the Leight Impact Sports. I've got these in green like everyone else who's ever bought a pair in the last 10 years or so. These are arguably the most sold earmuffs on the market. Many of us watching this video will have a pair in classic green, just like me, because you didn't want to pay for the more expensive colors. As I mentioned earlier, I started this process after my first pair died after 8 years of use, and unfortunately it was by my own fault. I left them in the car when it got too hot, the batteries leaked, and that killed the headphones. So for the money, averaging about $50 on Amazon, you get a lot of features in this set. You get your external aux port to plug in an aux cord to hook it up to your phone or something else. These headphones will shut off on their own. You've got directional microphones and a published noise reduction rating of 22. If you're someone who shoots a majority indoors, I hate to say it, but these are probably the worst option of the bunch for 2 reasons. Number one, anybody I've ever talked to and the reviews online all consistently mention a poor seal or fit. And that's just wearing these the way they are. When you introduce eye protection into the mix or shooting glasses, that seal gets even worse. I hate to say it, but after owning these, I never really quite got over how uncomfortable they were. At the most, I could do half hour at the range before I really started feeling them pushing down on my ears. Additionally, if you're shooting indoors, the most important thing is getting rid of or canceling any type of destructive sounds that will damage your ears or make you break your concentration. The Leights have the odd ability to take the loudest sounds in the shooting range that you don't want to hear, like the sounds given off by Magnum revolver or rifle shots bouncing indoors, and they amplify them and actually make them louder. While these have some of the best sound pickup for conversations, they've got some of the worst electronic protection overall. If you shoot indoors, you need to double up and wear earplugs if you plan on shooting with these indoors and being able to hear when you get old. Howard Leight doesn't offer their own ear pad upgrades for these, but aftermarket options exist, and helmet adapters exist both in the aftermarket and published or manufactured by the company that makes these as well, which is now Honeywell. On a comfort scale, I'd give these a 3 out of 10. Number 2 on our list is the Walker Razors. The biggest competitor to the Howard Leight in both price and overall sales is the Walker Razor. Right now, these are the #1 seller on Amazon and the #2 most reviewed, beaten only by the Howard Leights. These come in a boatload of different colors. I've got the, I guess they're the FDE option, but they come in tons of different colors. You can get them in multicam, pink, whatever your heart desires to match these to your outfit or your underwear. The average around the price for these is also, just like the Howard Leight, about $50. But where they seem to beat them is they'll occasionally fall as low as $35. So if you're looking for the cheapest set, these will probably get you there. At the same time, when you talk about the cheapest set, if you're talking about general sound quality and noise, these are the worst sounding earmuffs you can buy. They're non-directional, which means you've got no clue where sound is coming from when someone talks, or an animal moves, or if somebody's creeping up on you. And the amount of static in these is so bad when the sound protection is on and it's on max volume, that wearing these headphones is like pressing your head up to an old TV and listening to channel 3 on high volume. They're an incredible upgrade when it comes to comfort, which is why it's so disappointing that they skipped out so much on the sound. Of the bunch, these are the slimmest option, which is why they're called the Razors. And when I compare these in overall fit and comfort, they just fit right. This pair feels like when they made them, they specifically made them for me. The noise reduction rating on this is a 23. It's got the external aux port, but it also doesn't have automatic shut-off, so you might as well carry extra batteries with these as well. Additionally, for some reason, this seems to be the only pair I've reviewed that doesn't have an aftermarket or a factory option to mount these on a helmet. So if you're using these for some type of combat or professional use, you're kind of shit out of luck. Like the Howard Leights, these also don't have protective sound clipping. And let me talk about that real quick to explain why it's important. Some of the more expensive options here that we'll get into next have what's called protective sound clipping. After a certain volume or decibel rating, loud sounds just get shut off entirely. It's really cool when it happens if you're shooting at a range of multiple people, because it kind of feels like being in the Matrix. All the sounds around you completely drown out, and all you can hear is your thinking and breathing, and your focus is clear and uninterrupted. As far as shooting at a range with other people, you absolutely want that. So this option, if you shoot indoors, is once again not for you. You should definitely double up with ear pads, and if you ever plan on shooting indoors with these. The nice thing is, if you already have these, Walker makes gel ear pads. So if you already bought into it and you really don't want to switch, but you want to upgrade to something that seals better and feels better, it's about $20 to get Walker's gel ear pads to upgrade these, and they'll probably be the best fitting headphones you can get. They just won't sound great. On a comfort scale, the way these come, I'll rate these somewhere as like a 6, 6.5 out of 10. They're easily twice as comfortable as the Howard Leights. One of the things I wanted to mention as well is these have an aux port, so you can plug your cable in to listen to music. The thing is, these also come with a cover for it, and this cover doesn't stay in at all no matter what you do. It just completely falls out every time. So if you're depending on that to protect it from water to get in or something like that, it's probably not going to go very far. Number 3 on the list is the Howard Leight Impact Pros. If you're a Howard Leight fan and you want to stick to the brand, the next option, or the best option really for anyone who's a fan of the sound quality in the Howard Leight brand, is going to have to be these. They also offer the highest published noise reduction rating at 30, and they have an added benefit. They make you look like the boomer who wakes up to go to the gun range and yell at younger guys anytime they double tap rounds too quickly. There's two big issues I have with these earmuffs, and none of them are how goofy they look. First off, they've got some unusual ability to pick up this odd sounds that come off from anybody else's earmuffs or hearing aids or any other electronic equipment nearby. So what happens is there's electronic noise that's literally a piercing ringing sound, and that's pretty much as bad as it gets. And it sucks because when it comes to overall sound quality, voice, direction, things like that, these are definitely the best of the bunch. But that's the biggest limitation to them. If you're an indoor shooter and a pistol shooter, these might be great for you as long as you go alone or you don't stand next to anyone else who's got electronic hearing protection on. If you shoot shotgun, rifle, anything that requires a cheek weld, these things suck. They get in the way and they look goofy. So you can't look cool with these and you can't shoot well with these unless you're at the range shooting pistol and nobody else is watching. If you're really dead set on something that's great for indoors though, and you're an indoor shooter and that's about all you do, pistol and nothing else, these are definitely gonna be the best protection for your ears. And with how bulky they are, they better be. It's probably the only set where you won't necessarily need to double up with foam ear pads to avoid damaging your eardrums. You're just gonna have to, once again, make sure you're not sharing the lane with anyone who's got a hearing aid or their own hearing protection, or the ringing sound will be deafening and you'll have to shut off the electronic feature at all. They're priced about $80, but they've also been falling to as low as $65. They've got an aux port, they shut off on their own, and there's helmet adapters available for these, both by the Honeywell brand and aftermarket options. And once again, you get directional sound. So if you can get around the electronic interference and you're looking for the best sound and you don't care how goofy you look, these are a great choice, because when it comes to hearing other people talk, nothing else is like them. If you're going to talk about fit though, I'd say that overall the way these come, they're somewhere between a 5.5 to 6 out of 10. They're not as terrible as the old original Howard Leights. They seal better, the ear pads are better, but they're not great by any means. They don't have a Honeywell or Howard Leight ear pad upgrade, but there are aftermarket options. One of the things I wanted to talk about real quick is that you'll notice that I skipped the model in the Howard Leight family, and those are known as the Howard Leight Impact Bolt, which happen to be around $100 and the only new release from the Howard Leight brand in however many years of selling ear protection. Their overall consensus is the Howard Leight Impact Bolt is pretty much the same thing as the Sport with a couple of visual upgrades. The sound quality is identical, the published upgrades are mostly cosmetic, and the ear pad design and the headband have been changed. I didn't include them on the list because I bought a pair. I thought I was going to end up sticking to that pair, and they actually died on me in a week. And while that may have been a single experience, that's pretty much all I need for me to basically rule out ever buying them. And I also don't see why you'd pay $100 when you're getting the same exact headphones out of the Impact Sports, just in a different color. If the only thing you're looking for is added comfort and you're happy with the Howard Leight Impact Sports, there's an option that'll get you there with better ear pads for half the price. Now I'm going to move on to a couple of options with the Walker brand that get into a lot more value for your money and better ear pads. But I wanted to mention something. Walker offers quite a few options after the Razors, the $35 pair that pretty much everybody buys right now. But to be honest with you, the Walker Quads, the Walker Extremes, the Razor Digitals, and even the Walker Ultimates, when they're tested, they all sound just as bad as the original Walker Razors. I chose to leave them out of the video for the sake of time and specifically for that. I also noticed that they coincidentally all publish the same noise reduction rating of 23. When you're looking at are you worth spending more money? Is it a good decision to spend more money on something else from the Walker brand? Until you get into the next category, the answer is no. It's not hard to see that in most cases you're paying twice the price for what's basically a different volume dial or a color, and ultimately all you're doing is funding Walker's marketing department exercises and them testing which product name gets you to spend more money. Where this is an exception, and the only time it doesn't apply, is that some of the Walker Razor's digital premium options have a walkie-talkie attachment that you can buy, and only some of them work with it, not all of them. If that's something that's interesting to you or something you're looking for, you're just going to have to look at the individual pair that you're buying, check with Walker and see if they're compatible. The walkie-talkie attachment's like 50 bucks. I've seen them on sale as low as $20, and depending on which model you get, I've also seen them thrown in as a free accessory on sale. So with that being said, I'm going to get us into the next set on the list, which is number 4, the Walker XCEL 100s. These are listed on the Walker website for $100 manufacturer suggested price, but they can be found as low as $57 if you shop around. Specifically, I've seen them as low as that price on Amazon, and I've seen them that cheap even at Home Depot online. As far as getting a higher quality set of earmuffs, this is where your money goes a lot further for quite a few reasons. In terms of comfort, right out of the bat, I'd say these are a 7.5 out of 10. If I was to design a set of headphones and overall comfort, these would be it. They also offer a lot more expensive features. This is where, once again, we get into the protective noise clipping. Protective noise clipping is important if you're an indoor shooter, because when loud sounds start hitting, this will shut them off or drown them out entirely to avoid damage to your ears. Additionally, they've got auto shut off, and specifically they move the controls to the headband so that you've got a slimmer overall ear pad compared to something like these, but you're not sacrificing ear protection or sound quality. But here's where things get weird. There's no published official noise reduction rating for the XCEL 100s, and we'll get into the why next. Before we get to that, there's a couple other things that are worth talking about with these. The Walker XCEL 100s have 4 sound modes with different features for each mode. There's a universal mode, which is exactly what it sounds. There's a high frequency boost, which will be beneficial for hunting certain animals. A high gain power boost, which amplifies all sound, which would also be useful for hunting or just hearing someone creep up on you. And a clear voice feature, which does what it sounds like. It specifically focuses on amplifying and helping hearing voices. It's going to be an incredibly useful feature for those of us shooting at indoor ranges, or potentially in the territory of professional if you might be a range safety officer. They also offer auto shut off, and one of the upgrades that you get with these that you don't get in the Walker's Razor is a moisture wicking perforated breathable headband, which is nice if you're outdoors, if you're shooting, if you've got a hat on, things like that. You really benefit from the upgraded headband. Beyond that, these add in directional sound, something once again the Razor models, the cheaper ones, don't have. And like all Walkers, they make their own upgradable ear pads. So for about $20-$25 you can get gel pads for these and make them even more comfortable. One of the things you lose on these is an auxiliary port. It's probably a minor loss, but for those of you that consider that to be important, if you listen to music or some other application of it, these aren't for you. But these are compatible with aftermarket helmet rail adapters, so these could be a combat option or professional use, and the overall loss of the auxiliary port in comparison to what you gain with these, with how comfortable they are, the different options they offer in terms of sound modes, is overall a win for the customer, especially at this price range. One of the things I'd also say is, if background noise is as much of a concern as it is to you as it would be to me, these are the way to go if you want to stick in the Walker brand. They're nowhere near as bad as the Razors when it comes to the buzzing or static. The next set on the list is the Walker XCEL 500s. So the way I got to these is I actually called Walker and I asked what would get me the best sound if I wanted minimal background noise and the highest microphone quality. They directed me to the XCEL 500s. These are published to have 4 microphones and a noise reduction rating of 26. These also have Bluetooth. The manufacturer's recommended or suggested price on these is about $150, but they can be found as cheap as $100 or less if you shop around. The odd part is, these are identical to the Walker XCEL 100s in every way with the exception of Bluetooth. If you look at these side by side, they are literally identical. The microphone controls, the volume controls, the build, the headband. The only thing different here is the color, and on this side, on the left ear pad, you can see that the volume controls and Bluetooth controls are there. But overall, the same volume piece, the same 4 microphones, so 2 on each side here, exist on both of these. As far as features go, the 4 sound modes exist in the same way on the XCEL 500s. The auto shutoff, the design, even the microphone placement, it's all identical. So if you really want a great set of ear pads, great ear protection, but you also want Bluetooth, these are the set for you. When comparing multiple options out there on the market that have Bluetooth sound compatibility, these offer the best sound playback. In testing the Bluetooth capability though, there's one thing you really gotta understand. You have to taper your expectations. These aren't gonna be your Beats by Dre. They'll get you by, they're not gonna sound great. There may be a 4 or 5 out of 10 in terms of music playback or sound quality. The fit on these, identical to the XCEL 100s. I'd rate them on the comfort, same exact, it's something like a 7.5 out of 10, with the most important part being the volume and sound controls being on the headband, so you get a slimmer ear pad, slimmer overall ear protection without sacrificing quality. Now the reason I believe that Walker doesn't publish the noise reduction rating on these is so that they don't compete with these. I don't think they want as many people knowing that these are basically the same thing with the exception of Bluetooth, because these are published to have 4 microphones. The 4 microphone stat on these is questionable depending on where you look at for information. So with Walker's marketing, once again, I think what they're trying to do is to help differentiate between 2 very similar products and justify the extra added cost of these outside of just the Bluetooth feature, while all the other parts to it are identical in fit, finish, and everything in between. The big thing is these are sold as having higher sound quality, which is basically marketing and nothing else. They sound identical to these in every single way. Additionally, as I get into this round, I tested both of these Walker XCELs, the 100s, the 500s, and the next set, the Peltors by 3M outdoors in cold weather and light rain, and they all 3 seem to work just fine the next day in terms of electronics. So for those of you that shoot outdoors, you deal with inclement weather, I think you'd be fine with that as well. It's not something you have to worry about, which basically gets us into choice number 6. So number 6, the Peltor 500s. These are by 3M, a company that's a professional in the industry of PPE, and this is their specific line for shooting. This is also the most expensive model of the bunch. They went up in price a lot recently. These things have gotten really popular. They've been sitting on back order at Midway and other places over the summer, and they've been growing in price ever since. The current price in making this video is they're about $135 as of around August online, and I've seen them as high as $170 if you happen to find a pair in stores like Bass Pro. They're also offered in a lower model, the 300s, priced specifically with no Bluetooth and with a lower noise reduction rating as well. So let's jump right into what $130 in noise protection gets you. They have both Bluetooth and auto off, and they also have an auxiliary port, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. The port is covered, and everything really is covered well on here. The ports at the bottom here, it's covered with a rubber seal. The battery door is sealed well. These are built like they're meant to withstand water, rain, all of the elements. Additionally, if you want to listen to music, this is another option on the market that's basically available to you to use either an aux port or Bluetooth. And one of the most important things about these is, as far as headphones go, this is the only model that offers a rechargeable power source. The 3M battery pack can be bought for around $35 online. I might sound like I'm a little critical of this pair, and to a degree I am. If you're an unlucky individual who can't get a pair online and you're stuck with buying these locally, you're basically flirting with a $200 price point, at which point you're talking about 4 times the cost of some of the other options we reviewed here, and you're in the territory of choosing something that's possibly a professional or instructor grade earmuff instead. Most people hearing that phrase already know what those other options are, and I won't really be getting into those because this is a review of the most commonly sold and at the same time the most budget friendly choices, which $170 tends to get away from. Starting with the sound quality of these is great. It's up there with the Howard Leight Pros when you're talking about the vocal clarity, understanding people talking, hearing them, and the low amount of background noise. I would say that overall, these are probably a tie with the Howard Leights for the best sound of the bunch, if not just a little bit worse. The noise level on these is really low, and the vocal clarity is strong. However, these things are advertised to increase the sounds of people talking while at the same time shutting out other sounds, the protective noise clipping that we keep talking about. And one thing I can tell you is it's not true. It doesn't happen. It's strictly a marketing feature. If you're wearing these and somebody shoots a gun nearby, or you're in a range, you hear a muzzle blast, and somebody's talking at the same time, one thing happens. Sound is muted or toned down, and that includes both the muzzle blast and someone talking. So you're not getting any extra amplification of people talking. It's strictly a marketing feature. One of the other things is, surprisingly, for how thick these are, the noise rating or the noise reduction rating is also only 26. So as far as safety goes, they're not any better than the Howard Leight, the Walker XCEL 500s or the 100s, which can be found for a third of the price. These do offer auto shut off though, so the feature list is pretty extensive when you add Bluetooth, rechargeable battery, the clear voice quality overall. Now getting to the not so great with these, and it is a big not so great. As far as Bluetooth sound quality goes, these suck. This is probably as bad as it gets when it comes to listening to music. It's flat at all with no bass. Additionally, the build quality on these is really questionable. Of the bunch, this is the only pair to not have any kind of sweatband or fabric on the headband, and the headband itself is made of some odd, flexible, vented plastic that just isn't comfortable if it's worn without a hat, and it just kind of presses down on your head. Additionally, the ear pads, they're really spongy and they feel cheap. They're the only ones in the bunch that don't use whatever this traditional ear pad material is, and instead they use some type of odd synthetic that resembles a cross between a vinyl and a sponge. The other thing that I really worry about is if you look at these, the overall construction. The mount for the cans seems to be held in with hopes and prayers more than anything than what a well-engineered design should be at this price point. And if you look at Amazon reviews for these, the reviews are littered with people who have had issues with the headband breaking, these ears breaking free from the overall plastic here that hold the muffs on, and when that happens, you're basically left with a useless set of earmuffs. Now 3M or Peltor does make an upgraded set of ear pads for these, so that would be a plus, but they are a little bit harder to find. On the comfort scale, I'd say these are maybe a 5.5 out of 10 at best. Finally, this is probably the part that most people are going to fast forward to that don't want the technical analysis on anything. So if you're looking for the best bang for your buck, basically out of the box, which ones should you get? I'm gonna 100% recommend the Walker XCEL 100s. If you don't need Bluetooth, it's hard to beat the sound quality and the overall noise and hearing protection for your money. However, for those of you that just want better sound, and if you're already bought into a specific set of earmuffs and they happen to be the Leight brand, or you're just loyal to that brand and you don't want to buy a different brand, they work for you and you just want the better set or an improvement, but you don't want to spend a lot of money, I recommend these Pro Ear gel pads sold on Amazon for about $24. They're compatible with the Leight Impact Sports, the Bolts, and the Pros, and the fit is great. If you take the existing ear protection and you add those to it, they clip right in. They easily bump up the comfort level to a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. So if you're already bought into that platform and they work great, they're kicking for multiple years like my old pair were, and you just want a lot more for your money and you don't want to buy another set, get a set of gel ear pads. Right now, when it comes to gel ear pads, you'll find a couple of different choices on Amazon. Overall, everybody who shoots in the shooting community knows that if you're upgrading ear pads, the noise fighters are the best option. However, in many cases, two things exist that make that an issue. One is noise fighters sell out incredibly quickly. As of now, every single model available is sold out online. Additionally, the price is something like $45 or $50. At that point, if you have $50 that you're going to spend on a set of earmuffs and another $50 on a set of gel pads, you could just start with a better set of earmuffs to begin with, and you'll likely get a lot more features for your money as well. So in those cases, I'd say that the best compromise in the middle of the road is you get something like the Leight Impact Sports and you add a set of the $24 ear pads to them to upgrade them. You're going to get basically the best of both worlds when it comes to sound quality, and a set that has easily better comfort than what you'd normally get when these start out as a 3 out of 10 on my scale. So overall, once again, best bang for your buck, the Walker XCEL 100s without a published noise reduction rating, but likely a 26. These are going to be where your money is going to take you the furthest. $57, $58 on Amazon or Home Depot. And these work incredibly well outdoors and in the rain, so these will go further when it comes to your shooting if you're an outdoor shooter. Finally, if I missed anything or you've got some lingering questions, feel free to ask or leave a comment and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video or it helped you in any way, please consider the links below. They are affiliate links and they'll help pay for things like all the headphones used in this comparison and other important things or similarly important things like food for me and the dog. Thanks again.